Loss of agricultural productivity. Riparian farming around 6 villages around Lote is abandoned because of crop burning and rotting incidences. The effluent treatment lines pass through these villages, and the effluent lines have been, they've been found to be broken by a number of surveys, by Central Groundwater Board, MPCB, and various NGOs. They've found these pipes to be broken, and the sewage and the effluent flowing on to agricultural fields. And this has caused some very damaging effects on the soil there. Several reports also indicate that the pH of soils around Lote MIDC, that's the 6 villages, is acidic, and soil moisture is much higher. Soil moisture is much higher because it has been said that the effluents are dumped in the bore wells and also open shallow wells. So there has to be some reason why the soil moisture only around the MIDC is higher, and it's not in the other regions. Health impact, this study was also done in 1997. It showed that around 30% of the population in the 5 villages suffers from lung disorders and skin disorders. According to a study which has been recently conducted by BJ College in 2004, it shows that 6 villages around Lote, the cattle milk and human milk samples show high proportion of lead, aluminum, and chromium. And these are several water quality studies done by several organizations like the National Institute of Oceanography, the Central Groundwater Board, which have just said the same things over and over at different timelines. They've been said in 1997, 2003, 2004, 2007, that groundwater is polluted, the surface water is polluted with heavy metals, it is acidic, and COD, at one station, the COD was around 3,000 milligrams per liter. And this is the place where it actually meets the creek. So what have been the measures adopted by the MPCB? The common effluent treatment plant was set up in 2001 and it was functioning. And around, there are now 122 companies, but there were 138 companies once, which were all the members. According to the report of CETPs, it is said that in general, the performance of CETPs across the country has been found very unsatisfactory. And the regional report of CETP, of Lote Parshuram CETP in Kolhapur region, states that does it comply to the standards? No. And what are the reasons? Lack of adequate operation and maintenance. The sludge, the chemical sludge, sewage sludge is bad enough, but chemical sludge is toxic. It is kept out to open in the dry. I have some photos which I could share with you. It is kept out to open, to dry out in the open, and it is disposed in the region. There is no disposal method for the sludge, the dried sludge, the chemical sludge. So what have been the response? In response to the charges of bad operation and maintenance, the response has been to move the MPCB field office from Lote Parshuram region to Chipudun, which is around 20 kilometers from the industrial estate. So it makes any chance of complaints from the villagers or any chance of very quick action even more remote. When I was at one of the villagers said that they have had to bodily bring the MPCB persons from Lote office to see the fish kills. They just wouldn't come. And so there have been a lot of skirmishes going on between the MPCB and usual things about MPCB and industries being hand in glove. So there has been this environment monitoring group which has been constituted, and the Pollution Control Board is very proud about it. But there have been no meetings for the past 2 years. And there are only 2 members which are village representatives, and more than 20 members which are from the industries and the Central Pollution Control Board. So the villager told me very desperately that we don't want to be in the group, because what happens with the 2 members, they're either extremely pressurized or they get corrupt. So they're just trying to stay away from this. So what are the local options then? What happens when the biodiversity in a river is dead? The only option that they have now is sand mining. This is manual sand mining. They can't afford the trawlers and the dredges. So they've been, these are the boats. The photo is not very clear, but you can actually see small buckets here. And there is this wooden channel, and they put the buckets. The actual level of water is very low here. It's around 1 to 2 feet, and they can get the sand very easily. And this is manual sand mining, for which there is permission even under the Act. So but what's happening now is there are trawlers and dredgers which are coming in. It's a very hazy picture. I was not allowed to go there. I wanted to take a picture, but the company didn't allow me to go there. But this is actually a dredger. This is actually a dredger which is supposed to be desilting the river, and it gets the permission from the Ports Authority of Maharashtra for desilting the river. Not for sand mining. If you're sand mining, then you'll have to pay the revenue. So these are the people, and this is the local politician there who is actually dredging the river and is supposed to be desilting. And what he does is he takes out the silt with a trawler, which is not allowed here. It is not allowed in the creek. It's supposed to work only in the sea. So they take out the silt. They actually strain the silt, take out the sand, dump the silt at the same point, and take out the sand, with no revenue or anything. And they have made the people here who were operating these manual boats unemployed, and they're not allowed to go in the river now. They're supposed to pay them royalty, which they can't. So now this business, when I was there for 2 weeks, the boats were parked and they were not going into the river. And what happens with this sort of mining is the desilting people dump the silt in the river. So they form huge pools there and mountains. So it's very difficult for the boats to maneuver these sort of whirlpools and mountains, which are right inside the river. So well, this is the story of Vashishti. Looks like a dying river to me, but we still have hope. So let's see, something will happen. There are a number of local groups which have been trying to work on this river for the last 15 years. Nothing much substantial has happened, but well, we can still hope for the best. So this is a story of Shastri. Shastri is parallel to Vashishti. This is Dabhol, where Vashishti meets the sea, and this is Jaigarh, where the Shastri meets the sea. The distance here is around 60 kilometers. So it's a very, different basins, just 60 kilometers, but Shastri is an undammed, unpolluted river. Upstream is completely pristine. So I was very happy, and I wanted to report this river, and I want to talk about this river, because we've been working on this river, trying to look at how villages and how local livelihoods depend on free-flowing rivers. And so, yes.
How has it escaped?
We'll see if it has escaped at all. So the basin area is 2,100 square kilometers, slightly smaller than Vashishti, but the average annual yield is higher than Vashishti. Vashishti is around 5,600, and here it's around 6,200. It has a larger number of tributaries than Vashishti, and so yes, rural population depends on. There's also very high cultural significance for Shastri, which I somehow didn't find for Vashishti. I don't know what the reasons for this are, but Shastri has a huge cultural significance. There are, it's very interesting. At every hydrological junction of Shastri, there is a Shiva temple. When it falls from Prachitgarh, which is a point in Western Ghats cliffs, down to the Konkan, there is a temple called Marleshwar, which is the origin rivulet. It's called Gangotri. This is Marleshwar. There's a temple here. Then at the confluence of Alaknanda and Shastri, there is Sangameshwar, which is an important town, and there's a Shiva temple right at the confluence, and the Shiva lingam actually gets, water from the water flows, the confluence water actually flows right to the Shiva lingam. Then is the Saptalingeshwar temple, which is a beauty. It's a gem right inside a forest where 7 first-order streams come together. There's Saptalingeshwar, and all these small rooms actually have water channels. There are 7 water channels made in stone, which then come together in this kunda and form the Saptalingeshwar, from where the Saptalingi river starts and meets Shastri. So it's completely hidden inside a forest and very neglected, but that has saved it from being a tourist spot. So, and then there is the Velineshwar, where the Shastri meets the sea at the confluence. So nearly each of the hydrological points, there is some, well, we can look at it from different points, but the way I see it is that back then communities sort of valued these things. And
how many temples? 7?
There are hundreds, because sacred groves, it has around 30 sacred groves. Every sacred grove has 1 Shiva temple. But these are the important 4 temples at 4 junctions. But there are 100 Shiva temples, and each of the Shiva temple is related to some hydrological uniqueness. It's either the origin or the confluence of smaller rivers. So the thing is,
why are they on this river but not on the other?
It's very strange. I tried to ask, why is it? I was told that Lote Parshuram is Parshuram, and there was Vasishtha and Parshuram. So this is Vasishthi, and there was always this sort of war going on between Parshuram's father and Vasishtha. And so there was a war in this basin, mythologically. So this river is,
And you have similarity in Western Ghats, about which I will speak finally.
Definitely, definitely.
Later when you are
Sure, definitely.
when you talk.
So we'll see the population of Sangameshwar is around 12,000 people. Depends on the river for drinking. There are jackwells and water supply schemes. Not entirely on the river, because there's a very strong groundwater system in place in these regions. So the dependence on tap water is less, but still it does get supplied by Shastri. And there are spring tanks which are spread all over the Shastri basin and all over all regions of this part of Konkan. Spring tanks which have been built by the community, managed by the community, and these are not traditional. I mean, there are a number of traditional spring tanks, but these are also still being built and managed by rural communities. So the water security, the drinking water security, there's no irrigation component here because there are no cash crops grown in any case. There is horticulture, which is coconut, areca nut, and mangoes, which don't need that sort of water. So the need for irrigation water is very less, and drinking water security does not depend on the tap. It's a very strong drinking water security which depends on the spring tanks and the groundwater system. It is a lateritic zone, a very porous lateritic rock which infiltrates water very quickly, and then it emerges into springs. So the spring tanks actually supply water till May. The time between May to June is very stressed, but that's the only time.